Hey everybody, it's Miss Fisher-Bellman in the library. Today's book talk is on autobiographies and memoirs. And what that means is that these are nonfiction pieces in which the authors are also characters. It's about their lives. And in some cases, these pieces reflect a large portion of their lives, and in some cases, it's a much more narrow focus. As we go through the book talk, it's also going to build in difficulty. So we're going to start with the books that might provide the least amount of challenge. They're still going to be fantastic reads, but they are going to build into much more challenging or reach books. But these are all really fantastic books, and they all offer us some great perspectives on all different types of people. So let's go ahead and get started. Our first book is called Hey Kiddo, and that is by Jarrett Krosoczka. And this is a graphic memoir. So what that means is that it looks like a comic book or a graphic novel. All right. It's very fast paced and it's hard to put down, and you might just finish it in one sitting. I did, for sure. And I'm not the world's fastest reader. So Jarrett, or Krosoczka, does not have an easy life. He lives with his grandparents and occasionally sees his drug addict mother and has no idea who his father is. The only thing that keeps him sane is his art, and he uses it to get approval from his grandparents and lure in friends. But it's definitely not enough to keep his bad dreams of the ghosts of his past at bay. How will heal his heart and make peace with his fragmented family? Find out in this 2018 graphic novel, Hey Kiddo, by Jarrett Krosoczka. Next up, we have another wonderful graphic memoir. This one's called Almost American Girl by Robin Ha. When Chuna's mother takes her on a trip from her home in South Korea to Alabama in the United States, she has no idea she won't ever be going home. But Chuna's mother has big plans. She has been secretly speaking on the phone with a Korean-American man, and she plans to marry him. Chuna doesn't get to say goodbye to her friends or even pack up all of her belongings. She is stuck in Alabama, unable to speak English and completely friendless. But when things begin to sour between her mother and her new stepdad, Chuna, who now goes by Robin, can't imagine what will happen next. Her life is filled with uncertainties, and they only seem to be getting more and more overwhelming. Will Robin return to South Korea, or could her future involve even more change? Find out in this wonderful 2020 graphic memoir, Almost American Girl by Robin Ha. So I wanted you guys to be able to see a couple options for memoirs that are graphic novels, and there are a few more that are in our collections in the link below this video. The remaining selections are not graphic memoirs, but they are definitely just as compelling. First up, we have Becoming Maria, Love and Chaos in the South Bronx by Sonia Manzano. There's a pretty good chance you know this author. Does she look familiar? She played Maria on Sesame Street from 1971 to 2015. However, she definitely did not grow up on Sesame Street. Sonia Manzano was raised in the continental U.S. after her parents moved to New York from Puerto Rico. Living in complete poverty, Sonia frequently had to battle hunger, roach infestations, and that was before her father would return home from work in complete alcoholic fits, which taught Sonia to hide all of the knives in the house. But Sonia was determined to break the cycle of poverty. She did not want to end up pregnant like so many of her friends in the Bronx. She wanted to go to college and figure out how to live a completely different life. Follow along in this wonderful 2015 memoir, Becoming Maria, Love and Chaos in the South Bronx by Sonia Manzano. Next up, we have Free Lunch by Rex Ogle. Rex Ogle's life is hard. His family can't afford the basic school supplies he needs, and he often goes without meals. But when his mom signs him up for the free lunch program at his school, where all the other kids seem wealthy, Rex is mortified. Each day, He must tell the cafeteria worker his name and that he's in the free lunch program in front of the entire line in the cafeteria. And his friends from 5th grade all seem to have disappeared. But that's not all. When he gets home, life still feels impossible. His mother and her boyfriend are abusive, and he spends most of his time watching out for his little brother, Ford. How will Rex survive 6th grade and his tumultuous home life? Find out in this 2020 YALSA Excellence in Nonfiction Award winner by Rex Ogle, Free Lunch. Readers should be aware that this book does include scenes of violence. So remember, we're building in challenge as we go, and our next book is going to be kind of an obvious step in that challenge area, and that is All Boys Aren't Blue by author George M. Johnson. Black queer author George M. Johnson grew up knowing he was different. From being violently bullied at age 5 to being teased for preferring double dutch to football in middle school, Johnson's childhood was incredibly challenging. On the inside, he was always battling feelings that he wasn't experiencing the world like so many of his peers, and he wasn't sure why. Despite being blessed with what Johnson refers to as a queer-affirming family, his road to self-acceptance was incredibly difficult. Johnson wrote All Boys Aren't Blue to promote Black queer visibility, especially among young people. There was so much he didn't know growing up because the world was so different for him than it was for his white Catholic school classmates. And he wanted that experience to change for his readership. From his childhood and family in New Jersey to his college years at Virginia Union University in Richmond, Virginia, Johnson, who goes by the name Matthew for much of the memoir, takes readers throughout his early years to promote visibility and engender empathy. Please be aware that this book includes a very honest view of the author's experiences with racism, sexual assault, homophobia, and sex. And that's the 2020 memoir, All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. So our final book is our reach read, and it is ironically our shortest read. So it is a challenge, but it's also shortest in page length, and that is The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass by Frederick Douglass. Chances are Frederick Douglass sounds like a familiar name to you. You might even know a little bit about Frederick Douglass, but this piece is important to understand even more about Frederick Douglass. It was written in 1845 by Douglass, who was an abolitionist and a former slave. It tells about his horrific childhood as a slave, the abuse he endured throughout his early life, how he managed to acquire an education, and his eventual dramatic escape north. This important work became integral to the abolitionist fight and is studied in high school and college classrooms across the globe. The preface is written by abolitionist William Lloyd Garrison, whose name might be familiar if you read the 2020 nonfiction book Stamped by Jason Reynolds and Ibram X. Kendi. And if you haven't read Stamped, you totally should read that book too. But it's not a memoir or an autobiography, so we can't dive into that too much right now, but keep it on your list. I'm getting off topic here. So back to The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass. This is a shorter read at only 96 pages. It's a short one. However, its language and content can be dense at times. Please be aware this is a first-person account of slavery, and it is graphic at times, and the language used by slave owners is absolutely reprehensible and obviously racist. But it's the first-person account of part of our history that we can never forget. That's The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass by Frederick Douglass. So these are just 6 of the books that are available to you in the memoir and autobiography category. And you might have noticed they seem a little bit heavy. And sometimes that's the way memoirs and autobiographies can work out. Not all of them are, but a good chunk of them are. And a good part of that is because there's a person that comes out on the other side. So who are you going to read about? Remember, if you need help making a selection, we're always available in library office hours, and that's the Google Meet library_office_hour. I hope you find a great book to read. Happy reading, y'all.